Welcome to Misbehaving in Maine. I'm Dan Williams. This story is called Everyone's a Fighter. We beat ourselves up all day long. And now, here goes everything. My friend Timothy and I were on the school playground doing daring things, jumping from the swings and flying, sliding down the slide sideways, upside down, and backwards, balancing on top of the monkey bars, the pull-up bars, and the railings of the bouncy bridge. It was here, at the bouncy bridge, that I wronged my friend. You ask me, what's a bouncy bridge? I tell you, I'm sorry to hear you were chained to a cellar toilet all your life and are therefore unfamiliar with playgrounds and one of their most popular features, the bouncy bridge. Some call it a clatter bridge because of the sound it makes when you run over it. These bridges move when you walk on them. They wiggle. They bounce. Got it? On with the story. And sorry for being so mean, but you did ask. Anyway, the railings on either side were high up to keep bridge bouncing kids from flying off to the right or to the left. The railings were so high that when you stood on top of them, your feet were well over the head of your friend, who was standing on the ground outside the bouncy bridge, spectating as you risked your one and only life. Your feet were over your friend's head, yes, but still within reach of his hands. My hands. I watched Tim up there. He had a foot on either railing and was wide walking his way from one end of the bridge to the other. I especially watched the foot on the railing closest to me, and when that foot was right in front of me, over my head but well within reach of these dangerous hands of mine, I reached up and shoved his foot. I gave it a great shove, so great his foot slipped off the railing. Tim fell. He fell straight down onto the bridge, but before he landed, his head landed on the railing his unlucky foot had been standing on. Tim's head boomed the railing. It slammed. Then he landed in a heap. It was a bouncy heap. Just because a kid might or might not be unconscious doesn't mean bouncy bridges stop bouncing. And they favor no one. They'll bounce live kids, they'll bounce dead ones. It's their job. Unnecessary recap. I shoved the foot, Tim's head smashed the railing, Tim's body became an eerily bouncy pile on the bridge. New information. Coincidentally, the bell rang right then, as if to indicate that something awful had just happened. The bell also indicated recess was over. The rule. When the bell rang, everyone had to go inside and fast. You didn't want to straggle and get caught by Mrs. Avery, the recess monitor. She was Mrs. Avery of the red countenance, Mrs. Avery the alcoholic. Everyone said so until everyone believed it, even Mrs. Avery, which is maybe why she was an alcoholic. Yea, she was Mrs. Avery the ever-pissed, and she moved through the playground like the killing fog of the insect-hunting DDT trucks. Therefore, I didn't have time for the usual work of comforting fallen friends. It had to be a rush job. "I'm so sorry," I whispered to the human heap that was Tim, a heap still bouncing on the bridge that bounced away merrily because it couldn't read the room to save its life. "Tim, are you okay?" My wild eyes flashed all around, and my nose sniffed for invisible clouds of alcohol. "We have to go now. Now, Tim, hurry, get up." At any second, Mrs. Avery's face might rise over our backs like the world's last blood moon. Tim, formerly the kid standing on top of the world, stirred a little on the bridge, then managed to stand, to leave the bridge, and to join me on solid ground. "I'm okay," said Tim. "No, you're not." I put my arm around him. "I'm so sorry. Is your head okay?" He closed his eyes and tenderly touched the place where the railing had struck. He nodded. "It's not bad. I'm okay." This didn't make sense because it was bad, and very bad. He couldn't be okay. With the bell still screaming, we headed for the doors of the school. First, though, before we went anywhere, I said to Tim, "Hit me." He opened his eyes. "What?" "Punch me." I stood in front of him, blocking his way. "Punch me in the face, Tim, please." I turned my face, suggesting a side that might work best for a punch. My right side. It's better looking than my left, so it could afford a punch, a hit that might balance out my attractiveness. Tim blinked slowly and shook his head. "No." I stared at him, stunned. He knew what I was offering. He knew I'd never been punched in the face before. Forever he'd have the honor of being the first. Forever I'd be able to say, "Sure, I've been punched in the face. No sweat. When you get your bell rung, boys, that's your alarm clock. Time to wake up. It's manhood." But most of all, I needed Tim to punch my face, because a punch was the only medicine able to help my heart, which had turned into a heavy, screaming sack of shame and guilt. "Please," I cried, "come on." I grabbed his fist, lifted it, and touched it to my right cheek so the fist would have good directions when it swung at my face much faster. "No." Tim pushed past me, heading for school. I followed him all the way, begging, pleading, beseeching. But I never got my punch. My swollen shame sack of a heart, hanging with tearing weight from the girding nooses in my chest, swelled and swelled like an udder, pulsing with the agonizing need to be milked before inevitable ruptures and/or explosions. My sick heart grew so big it filled more than my chest. I felt its putrid weight in my stomach, first high, then low. Next, my heart stretched into my legs and arms, into my hands and feet, fingers and toes, and on up into my throat, blocking my wind and my cries for Tim's help. Lastly, this wicked heart of mine pushed into my skull, crushing my brain into a hard jelly against the skull walls, like a victim of the spinny puke factory carnival ride, the Gravitron. And that's how I had to stay, invaded from crown to baby toe by pulsing shame all that day, and the next, and the next. Thankfully, Tim was okay. No concussion, said the school nurse. That made things a little better for me. However, Tim didn't tell the nurse or anyone else that I pushed him. He merely said, "I fell." That made things a little worse. I did something awful, and Tim protected me. Whenever I think about that day, what I did, and how Tim didn't punch me or tell on me, I think the same old things. What was I thinking? Though I didn't mean for his head to hit, which means I'm technically innocent, his head did hit, and I'm the one who pushed him. Why would I push a friend's foot while he's balancing in the sky, while he's doing what I just did safely because he didn't shove my foot when he had the chance? I don't understand. Is there something wrong with me? Of course there is. Look what you did. But why? Maybe the answer is complicated, like I have temporary insanity issues, or I breathed in a demon for a second, or there's a malignant twin growing on the decision center of my brain, and he just kicked the center in some nightmare he was having, and that made me do what I did. But maybe the answer is simple. Maybe Tim looked too cool while being a boy balancing in the sky like the boy of a god, and this made me worry that I hadn't looked as cool during my turn. Something had to be done to balance out the attractiveness of the friendship. Or maybe I just thought it would be funny. Tim would fall, land safely in the loving arms of the bouncy bridge, and we'd both have a laugh. Whatever the reason, I made a mistake. I screwed up and felt bad. I failed. I felt so bad that I begged for violence. And you know what? I have not changed one bit. When I fail these days, when I screw up socially, when I act like a child, embarrassing myself, when I'm cruel, selfish, tyrannical, when I'm needy, petty, vengeful, and small, when a joke of mine doesn't land, when my writing fails to move anyone, when a question catches me off guard and my answer makes me sound like a buffoon, I say to myself, hit me. Please, I beg you, punch me in the face, Dan. Will you punch me, please? And he will. He does it so willingly. I'm guessing it's his favorite thing. I hardly even have to ask anymore. Punch Lust Dan goes to town before I have a chance to ask him. He pummels me with his practiced fists. He milks the guilt and shame out of my bloated heart, one haymaker at a time. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I'm glad for his punches. I call his fists Mr. Check and Mr. Balance. The only trouble is I can't stop him once he starts. He flattens my heart for my mistakes and keeps hitting me. I've learned my lesson. He keeps hitting me. Dear Mr. Punch Lust, sir, I'll be a better Dan next time, I swear. He keeps hitting me. How do I make him stop? How do I make him more like Tim? If Tim had punched me that day, I bet he would have known how to stop. He was just that kind of guy. A good one. Unless, of course, the reason Tim didn't punch me in the face was because he knew if he did, he wouldn't be able to stop. He would have learned what Mr. Punch Lust knows. Punching this guy just feels right. And right again, and left. This is fun. Wham! Crack and bam! Have you learned your lesson yet, son? Smack! What was that? I couldn't hear you. Whack! Pow! Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Kapow! I guess you can't answer because you need a face to answer, and I'm currently beating your face to death. But maybe it's my fault that old Mr. Punch Lust can't stop. Maybe I'd try harder to make him stop if I didn't agree with him so much. This just feels right. This has been Misbehaving in Maine. See you next time. And remember, you may be wicked, you may be weird, but you're not alone.